Welcome everybody. Good to see you all. Welcome back, some of you. Oh, welcome, definitely welcome back, some of you. That's the danger of walking into Buddha for you like 3 hours before 7 o'clock on a Tuesday and me saying you're going to come tonight. You know, sometimes it works. How many of you were part of the old like Buddha for you location in the college area? A number of you. So I used to always say there, you know, we had this crazy random Buddhist shop next to Vaughn's and Itan, literally, and tapioca and all kinds of stuff. And we used to say at the end of meditation, I would say, I use this like in the mafia movies. You have your restaurant in the front and the gambling ring in the back, right? Because people would see all the shiny, pretty stuff, and they'd kind of look around, and the college kids were looking for incense, and you know, it's just a funny little shop. And then they eventually kind of peeked their head in the back of this place. And it was like the same quiet, calm, still feeling that people get when they come here or downstairs, either way. They had that feeling to it. And, you know, it's funny what draws us to practice because it's different for everybody. But I've found that the kind of broad sense of it is people get drawn in for really the same thing, and that is that they're just seeking, searching, craving, desiring a sense of calm and stillness and peace and joy and happiness, whatever words that you use to fill that in. That's kind of why we're all here and get into this practice to begin with. And it's interesting because, you know, in Buddhism we talk about craving and desire being, you know, the sources of our suffering. But the Buddha also said that there are healthy cravings and healthy desires. And the craving and desire to end suffering is extremely healthy. Because if we all didn't want to be kinder, gentler, happier, more peaceful people, then we definitely wouldn't be sitting here right now. So hold on to that kind of craving and desire. And often when you get to this place in your life where you think everything is good, you're like, oh, I don't need to meditate anymore. Yeah, you do, right? Because it won't be good forever. It was a kid, I don't know, he was a young guy, early 20s, many months ago, 6 months ago or so, and he raised his hand and he said, you know, things have been really good for a while, and I'm afraid it's not going to stay that way. And I said, oh, it's definitely not going to stay that way. So begin to understand that that's the journey, is that we have these moments of things going well and things not going well. But always come back to, as my master used to say, what is the original intention of why you start meditation or why you start this practice or why you show up to a place like this? Don't lose sight of what that original intention is. Always come back to that. Whatever led you to walk into these doors or any other Buddhist place or meditation place or yoga place, whatever that intention was that led you to walk in, remember that intention, because that's the thing that you have to come back to when you kind of fall away a little bit, and you got to come back to that kind of motivation. So with that being said, we'll start with the meditation practice. A couple things to tell you before we begin. Nothing's going to happen to you, right? You're not going to float away. You won't have any mystical, magical experiences. The mind that races all day long is not going to shut off. Okay, don't judge your practice. I mean, you don't ask yourself, is this working? Is it not working? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? We're just going to sit. We're going to breathe. Sounds, you'll hear them, right? This is life. Life is filled with chaos. And the practice of meditation is learning to get quiet and still within all of the chaos. You won't think nothing. Often people think the meditation is about going blank or stopping your mind. You'd end up sitting there telling yourself, think nothing, think nothing, think nothing, and it's kind of a waste of time. So don't judge this. We're just going to sit and breathe. Posture, you want to be comfortable. If you're on the cushions, often it helps slide into the front third, push the stomach forward, allows the back to straighten. Shoulders are relaxed, hands can be on the knees or in the lap, whatever's comfortable. If you're on the benches or chairs, also just trying to sit up straight, relaxing the shoulders. If you need to move during meditation, simply move. Doesn't make you a bad meditator, it just means your leg hurts. I will guide us as we begin, and we'll settle into a little bit of silence. Starting with your eyes closed if comfortable, or slightly open, mouth open or closed. Start with taking 3 deep breaths slowly. And eventually, settle into a natural rhythm of the breath. Gently guiding the attention, focus to the stomach or chest. Breathing in, feel them rise. Breathing out, they fall. Simply continue this practice, observing sensation of breath, expecting nothing but to sit and breathe. As the mind wanders, lost in thought, recognize it. Release that thought. Return attention, focus to the breath. Where's your mind? Release that thought. Return to breath. Letting go of expectations. Letting go of judgment. Just sitting. Breathing. Keeping the mind alert, aware of each sound, each thought, each physical sensation. Yet concerned with nothing but sitting, breathing. And with the body still, rested, and the speech quiet, aware of all sounds, and the mind learning to settle, know what it's like to just sit and breathe. Knowing with each breath, there's nothing else to do. Nowhere else to go. no one else to be. Everything beautiful, exactly as it is. Sitting, breathing. And once again, taking 3 deep breaths, slowly. As you slowly open the eyes, slowly beginning to move. And most important, the practice of meditation is to recognize how you feel now, immediately after. Compare this to how you typically feel throughout your day. Recognize the difference, if there is one. Ask yourselves how you prefer to feel every day for the rest of your life. And realize however you feel now, it's quiet, calm, still, or a busy mind, racing mind, whatever you're sitting with at this moment. It's nothing to do with anything I said. It's nothing to do with how you sit, hold the hands across the legs. It's nothing to do with the sounds around us or anything else for that matter. It has everything to do with your own mind and your own mind's reaction to an external condition. This is what the Buddha called pratitya samuppada, means dependent origination. This is the basis of the Buddha's awakening. The word Buddha simply means awaken. He was a human being, no different than anyone in this room, who began to understand why he suffered, why he got angry, sad, depressed, stressed, anxious. He began to understand the causal relationship of all phenomena. What that means, very simply, for all of us in this room, regardless where you come from or what you believe in or where you think you're going, your whole life is filled with things that happen. You react. More stuff happens, and more reactions. This is what we get every single day. The practice of meditation is learning what it's like to respond to something quietly, peacefully, still. Because for most of us, the way you responded to the last 20 minutes is quite different from how you respond to everything else that's happening throughout your day. So all we're working on is closing the gap to where the way you feel now is closer to how you feel always. Just as driven, motivated, productive, successful, whatever that means to you in your respective lives. But with a mind that's steady, clear, focused, distracted by nothing, disturbed by no one. Imagine going a day without being disturbed by someone. Most of you won't even make it home before you're disturbed by multiple people. Meditation is not an escape, as often people think it is. If your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, meditation isn't going to fix that. It's going to make you become aware of why your life is a crazy, hectic, stressed out mess, so you can then actually do things in your life to change it. Meditation is free. Buddhist practice is free. It's sitting, breathing, becoming aware of what you think, what you say, and what you do. Always. We often complicate this practice. 2,500 years of teachings and cultures and books and different ways to explore it and study it and integrate it into your life. And ultimately, it just comes down to being aware of your karma, which is what you think, what you say, and what you do. That is not a fun practice. That is not an enjoyable practice. That is not an easy practice. But it's, to me, the heart of the Buddhist teachings. What do you think and why do you think it? What do you say and why do you say it? What do you do and why do you do it? That's it. Once we stop trying to change, fix, control, manipulate so many things throughout our day, which is where we spend so much of our time, and wishing they would do this, wishing they would do that, hoping they did this, hoping they did that. We spend so much time trying to control people and places and things outside of ourselves. And this practice is learning to control your mind and your reaction to the world around you, and then engaging in the world as it is. And that's a challenge. Lots of things happen every day of our lives that we don't like. Some are minor things and some are pretty serious things. And sometimes the minor things at the moment seem pretty serious. But it's life. I've always looked at Buddhist practice as not the thing that solves or fixes anything. It's the thing that helps me get closer to seeing things as they truly are. And suffering exists because we try to see things the way we want them to be, or wish they were, or hoped they were, as opposed to seeing things as they are. It's one of my favorite expressions I heard years ago, where Thich Nhat Hanh says, "Nirvana, freedom from suffering, is freedom from views." And I remind myself of this many times a day, that every view I have, and I have many of them, they're not going away anytime soon. But it doesn't mean my views are right. They're just mine. And once you stop trying to convince everybody that you're right and they're wrong, life gets easier. It really does. So I don't necessarily have anything that I want to touch on that's coming into my head at the moment. So I'd rather just stop. And as always, I prefer to just respond to questions, meditation, Buddhist practice, anything you're sitting with that I can address. And we'll go from there.
So they say, you've heard the saying that, or something to the effect that reality can be painful or harsh sometimes. So when we deal with things as they are, see things as they are, we don't mitigate the harshness. How do we, be content?
Right. So the question, if I can paraphrase that back just to be clear, is in the attempt to see things as they are, we see the harshness of things. And I think what you're saying is, how do we learn to be content within the harshness? Right?
Yes.
Yeah. Good question. It's not easy. The first thing is to be patient with yourself.
Staying in the moment, right?
Well, but hang on. I mean, you can say that and I can say that, and that won't help you much, right? Meaning you're not going to be able to do it. I mean, let's be real. How great are we at staying in the moment? How good are you at staying in the moment?
Well, when things are relatively, calm in my life, I'm still not very good at it.
Okay, so let me rephrase the question. How good are you at staying in the moment?
Not good.
Not good, right?
Yeah.
From your description, I was going to say terrible. You just said not good. So, not good, right? Like most of us in this room, we are not good at staying in the present moment. I hear you. You're saying even when things are good, it's hard to stay in the present moment. And that's why I kind of quickly, there's be in the present moments. Like we rattle off these things, like we read it in a Thich Nhat Hanh book, and it's like, oh, just be calm and present and smile and hug a tree, and everything's going to be wonderful. No, it's not. The world is a mess, right? I mean, more people senselessly killed today in New Jersey, right? I mean, the world's a mess. So the real question is, how do we stay content within all the mess? And since my question to you, which was how good are you at it, and you said not good, the first thing you need to do, I suggest you do, is learn to be patient with yourself as you try to learn how to be content within the madness. It is not a 6-week course. It is not a 20-minute meditation and all of a sudden you're going to be good at it, right? It is going to take the rest of your life. So before I even give you some ideas or ways to do it, first be patient with yourself. If you've been not content with things as they are for 40 years, it's going to take more than 4 months, right? It's going to take a while. So practice patience. It's what's called the paramitas. One of the practices of the paramitas is to practice patience. Paramita, it translates to the word perfection. Generosity, morality, patience, diligence, concentration, wisdom. These are 6 practices we work on daily. So first, apply patience to yourself. The second thing, which is really getting at your question, how to stay content with things as they are. First is to understand that we often don't have a choice. I don't like the way things are a lot. Okay? And I have 2 general choices I can make. And within those 2, there's a million choices. But the general choices are, I can be really angry at the way things are and fight it and resist it. And I don't mean stand up for things. I mean be pissed off and angry. And then when I'm pissed off and angry at the way things are, who's angry now? So I'm angry at what's going on, and now I'm more angry because I'm angry at what's going on. And then you just perpetuate this constant flow of anger within yourself. And there's zero compassion cultivating whatsoever. There's just this constant stream of anger, anger, anger. So one choice is to be angry at the way things are. The second choice is to see the way things are and say, I don't like the way things are. I'd like to actively engage and work on changing the way things are. But who must I change first? This guy. It's really easy for us to sit and kind of point fingers at everybody else and say, they do this and they do that, and this is right and this is wrong, and everybody should be this way and that way. When you know how many things everybody in this room probably did today that were really not nice? Except for Chuck. A lot. I mean, if you're really honest with yourself, part of this practice is being honest with yourself and to ask yourself, how kind, how generous, how compassionate, how caring, how loving, how patient, how respectful were you to everybody today? Think about that for a minute. Hold up a mirror very honestly and reflect on your actions today. And then recognize that we get angry at other people for being certain ways, but we're not even kind very often. Okay? So understand that as we learn to cultivate compassion toward ourselves and others, and we see the way things are and we want them to change, do things to change them. But do it with kindness. So this whole idea of being content with the way things are, you don't have a choice. Things are the way they are. If you don't like it, change it. Right? It's funny because the word content means that we're going to be okay with things as they are, but we don't like the way things are. Well, when you don't like the way something is, usually a lot of other people like it. Ever been in an argument with somebody? Right? When you're in that argument, you don't like what they're saying, but they like what they're saying, or they wouldn't be saying it. Being content often means that we think everybody else is wrong, we're right, and we want to be okay with that. As opposed to recognizing everybody has their own views and judgments and opinions. And to a lot of the people that you might think things are not okay to them, it's okay. That makes sense? Yeah. It's really tough. So compassion towards self, less anger towards self and others. And if you don't like things the way they are, change them. Yeah. Thich Nhat Hanh was a great teacher on what's called engaged Buddhism. And, often if you're new to Buddhism, people have this idea that, it's like this remote thing that, you shave your head and put on a robe and go to the forest somewhere. And there is a piece of Buddhism that is that, and a school of Buddhism that is that, and a history and lineage and tradition of Buddhism that is that. And then there's also engaged Buddhism, where you're actually very engaged. Looking at issues around social justice and the way things are today that many of us in this room really would not be okay with. And engage in the world to make that change, but engage with kindness. Other thoughts, questions? Yeah.
If the contentment is not.
Hang on, go ahead.
So a couple months ago, you talked about practicing sympathetic joy. What do you have any tips on how to do that better? Or
So are you trying to say you haven't done so well the last few months?
So when I moved, I've lived in San Diego for like almost 3 years, and I got laid off from 2 jobs in a year.
Mm-hmm.
So now when I see people posting or talking about, oh, look at my promotion, look at these things, I am excited for them, but all I can think about is like, get your shit together,
Right.
or do something, I don't know.
Yeah.
So I am happy for them, of course, but at the same time, like, how can I
Sure.
stop those thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good question. One, usually when I tell people, like, often people show up here during the daytime and they're like all distraught and they're like, I lost my job. And the first thing I say to them is congratulations.
Yeah.
Because often it's a bit of time that you actually have free now.
Yeah.
You're probably not going to die or starve. But if it's a, habitual pattern and it's really at a point where like, okay, you're ready to keep one for a while, then I wouldn't say congratulations to you. But I think what you're asking really is, to me, there's separate things. Even in the way you ask the question, right? You phrase it as someone, you see someone post, they got a promotion. You're happy for them. And then all of a sudden you turn it on you and you're like, well, I got to get, my act going.
Yeah.
So they're really separate things. Like, the question is, are you genuinely happy for them? Or is it kind of a fake, like, hey, congratulations, but inside you're like, man, you suck.
Yeah.
Is it more like that?
I don't know. I am genuinely happy for them because their promotion doesn't affect my life.
That's what I'm getting at.
Congratulations.
Right. Then to me, I would just look at it as a constant, try not to like self-sabotage yourself so much and reflect on it with this sense of shame or guilt or, oh, poor me, I'm a terrible person. Like, life is not easy. Getting jobs is not easy. Keeping jobs is not easy. Genuinely be happy for them and try to look at it as just something that continues to motivate and inspire you to, the practice, and it's really the heart of the Buddhist teachings, is the practice of diligence. Is just try to maybe turn that on as a motivator and say, all right, they got their promotion, they're doing well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to be diligent. I'm not going to be lazy. I'm going to keep pushing until something hits for me. But again, like I said, the way you asked it, it sounded like you're genuinely happy for them, and that is that sympathetic joy towards others. But it sounds like you're not having much sympathetic joy towards yourself. And I would suggest not basing your entire view of yourself based on whether or not you have a job. Because you could have a job and be a terrible, miserable person. And you could be unemployed and be a perfectly happy, peaceful person. Like, focus on those things. It was one of those posts that went around recently, but I saw it and I loved it. I think it was Ireland. I don't know, somebody else might have seen it, but it was somewhere that it was some school that for the rest of the month, the teacher, instead of assigning homework to the kids, was assigning acts of kindness to them. So it's like, you're unemployed. You know what that means? You got a lot of time. Fill up that time with things that make you feel good, that make you happy, that make you feel joyful and pleasant. Try to use it wisely and not sit around and be miserable. Because when you get that job, all the free time you have now, you're going to wish you had it back. It's going to suck, trust me. It totally is. So just try to use that time wisely and enjoy it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sorry for cutting you off.
Oh, no worries. Sorry about that.
That's right.
Well, we're on the topic of contentment, and we talked about many of us not being content with things around us and things that we do. What if you're not content with yourself and you're constantly battling?
Yeah. That's why most people are sitting here. Look around the room. You're sitting with a room filled with people that are not that content with themselves. Now, that doesn't make this easy for you, right? Just because others are not content with themselves doesn't mean that you feel better about yourself. But that's a common thing. And part of it is embracing the fact that we have been conditioned, right? Buddhist teachings talk about causes and conditions and conditioned patterns and behaviors that when you're growing up, right? I mean, there was a time in your life when you could crawl. And then somebody picked you up and they held you by the arms, not like up here, but down here, right? And they put you on your feet. And all of a sudden you started walking. And they're like, yeah, what's your name? Yama. And they're like, yeah, Yama can walk. Look at Yama walking, right? That wasn't enough. Then Yama had to learn how to run, right? And then Yama had to learn how to go to school. And then you had to learn how to get out of second grade. And then you had to go to high school and you had to learn how to get out of that. Your entire life, you have been conditioned. Everybody's been telling you got to do more and be better. It's not your fault. Right? Suzuki Roshi would say, you're all perfect exactly how you are, and you all could use a little improvement. Right? Somehow, in this crazy world, you have been able to make it to this stage of your life. Right? Did you eat today?
Yeah.
You've built a life where you were able to eat. You have a place to sleep. You've built a life where you have shelter, right? You built a life where you thank God, have clothes to wear, right? It'd be a little awkward if you didn't, right? But you've built a life where you have things. You have at least one person in your life that cares about you. So you have a life that somebody cares about you. Right? A lot of this comes from just stopping and finding gratitude and appreciation for what you've actually accomplished, and to try not to keep setting this bar at this level of thinking that you have to be so much greater than you already are. Right? As long as one is seeking to be content with things, very often that is tied to this idea that if I just get something else, someone else, somewhere else, then I'll be content. If I have this job, or if I have this, relationship, or if I have this car, or have this house, and I have this money, if I just get all these things, then I'll be content. No, that approach, that mindset means you will never be content. Find gratitude and appreciation for the journey you've lived, because it's been rough, man. Right? That's what brings us all here. So, learning to be content with things as they are, especially around you, is learning to just appreciate the journey you've had, and try to be proud of yourself for what you've gone through, because you've made it this far, and that wasn't easy. You got everything you need in your life the rest of your life, but we'll still drive ourselves crazy thinking we need more. more. Yeah.
Could I address being laid off or losing your job?
Well, sure, that's me.
So I've had 45 plus year careers, been fired several times, been laid off several times, had a company bought out from underneath me, And the people at the top got a golden parachute, and I didn't even get a silk hanky. So out the door you go. One time I was fired and I shook the guy's hand who fired me, confused the hell out of him. Because I really hated the job and I was in it because I thought I had to be in it, you know? And in that particular case, being fired was a really good thing because it allowed me the space and the time to say, why am I doing this? Is it feeding my soul? Is it feeding me? And I used that opportunity to change my career completely. Because, well, it may seem stupid, I wasn't having fun anymore. I've been doing this one particular thing for a long time, and it just wasn't fun, you know? Not fun as in, you know, everybody goes through difficult things. No, I hated what I was doing. So perhaps being laid off or losing your job is an opportunity to re-examine what you're doing and to decide, does this feed my soul? And if not, what would? And can I find a way to earn a living at it? I don't know your condition, I'm just throwing an idea out.
It's funny you say that because I actually did that. And so everything I was doing before, I kind of threw it out the window and I'm starting fresh and looking for something completely different.
Yay,
So we'll see.
yeah,
But that's sort of, I had a couple months to think on it.
yeah.
So
I mean,
we'll get there.
at least for me, it can be very scary.
Thanks, Bruce. Other questions, thoughts? Yeah.
Just want to touch back on what he was saying. I feel like it's really difficult, like growing up in this generation, like everyone's so like into the digital age of social media. So like when people see my Instagram, they're like, oh, you look really happy, like you look like you're living life. You have the followers, the likes, like people like are blinded by what's on a page where you control what people see, other than what's really going on, So
Yeah.
I talk to a lot of people and tell them, I'm actually going through stuff. Like, dude, like you look happy, you look great, like how could you be sad when like the girls or your friends, like you dress nice, and I'm just like they're just the people like these kids nowadays. They don't understand that these materialistic things don't bring happiness,
Yeah.
And that once they get that, once they receive it, like my friends that are like talking about, that have the same type of social status as me, they're the most unhappy people I know. And the kids at school that are like, like the kind of so-called nerds, that don't have much friends, they're way more happy than the people that have a bunch of friends, because you can surround yourself by all these people, but you kind of just get lost
Definitely.
in the process,
Yeah, it's rough. And I know, but you're how old? You're what, like 17, 18? 18. I think it's, you bring up a great point, and there's, in Tibetan Buddhism, there's what they call wrathful deities. And you see them a lot in tankas, like these art pieces up here, very traditional Tibetan tankas. And, they're pretty and they're beautiful and, they're meant to look very pleasant. But there's also what they call wrathful deities. And the wrathful deities, I'll send you one. I'll put it on your Instagram page or something. And the wrathful deities, they're not so pretty looking. They're fierce. And they look, they can look scary, a lot of different words you can use to describe them, but they're not pretty, they're not pleasant, they're not these beautiful images. And what they're used for in practice is various ways, but to remind us that we often are so focused on coming back to what you said, in your generation, even for us old folks up here, same thing as we try to mess with stuff in your generation, right? None of us are putting all the stuff out there where we look like hell, like it's all a facade, it's an illusion, right? But the wrathful deities are that's actually what we look like on the inside. And the work is to transform, to be very honest with like, okay, what is this facade I'm putting on? What is this illusion that I'm presenting to everyone, right? I call it the namaste face, where people join palms, they smile and they say namaste, thinking like that means they're some pleasant, peaceful person, It's like, no, I'm a wreck right now. I am like that wrathful deity. That's what I feel like inside. And this practice, which is not easy, and God knows I wish I learned this stuff at 18 years old, is to be able to look very honestly at that and say, yeah, I am a mess inside. No matter how pretty I might be on the outside, no matter what little stories I put out there and what images I present, become very real with that inside. Because in time, right, there's a good chance that by the time you hit 40, you won't be sitting in this room. You know what I mean? So I don't have any real answer for that, not even that there was a question, but it's great that you're aware of that and pay attention to that. And then I think the last thing I'll say is that, as you grow up, and just because, you use some labels on types of people, and we do that a lot as kids or, older adults, whatever it might be. I mean, young adult, but we categorize people, right? And what you'll find out as you continue to grow is that the people that you're going to spend time with that truly make you happy are probably a lot different from the people you've been spending time with the last 2 or 3 years, right? And that we'll find ourselves hanging out with different people that actually help transform that inside of us, not that just kind of feed into that ego and what we are on the outside.
Yeah. So what's how can you help ground yourself, get back to reality? Because sometimes my ego does get to me. And then I'll be with people and they're like, oh, I know you. And I just kind of get over my head. So what can I do in the moment, when stuff's really hectic, to just realize that I'm no different than these other people, all pretty much.
It's a practice. I wish I had the magic pill that said, here, do this. I mean, when you and I were, if I was 18, when you were 18, we would have had a lot of fun together, my friends. My ego, my cockiness, my arrogance, my attitude, me thinking I was cool, all of that was through the roof, man. It was ridiculous. And all I can say is just keep practicing. Remind yourself that you're no better than anybody else. And that's something I had to tell myself for a long time, that I'm not better than anybody. I don't deserve anything more than anybody else. I'm no better than anybody else, right? It doesn't mean I'm worse than other people, but to stop thinking that you're better than others is really important, all right? And one way you do that is just by being of service, giving your time, your heart, your attention to others, seeing those that really need help, and that you can be there for them and kind of open up your heart a little bit to work on humility. Humility is a really difficult practice,
especially at 18.
Especially for, a cool 18-year-old kid like yourself, right? So you're here. That's a good practice. Just keep becoming aware, keep recognizing it, keep working on it. And truly look at just the people you spend time around, because they have a huge influence on you, So, yeah, thank you for sharing. Anything else before we close? Yeah.
I was going to say, Facebook's a really good practice for empathetic joy.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead of looking how false it is, just be happy that they're happy.
Yeah, the social media, it's a tool. People often ask me over the years, they say, do you think the Buddha would have used social media? Absolutely, 100% yes, I do. 100%, I agree. He would have been all over it. He'd be TikToking right now. Right? I just learned that over Thanksgiving break. I know, what is he, right? That's my point. But my point is, right, that the tools themselves are not bad or wrong or harmful, right? It's how you use them. It's how you use them. That's the key. You can use them to spread love and kindness and compassion, or you can use it to spread ego and arrogance and conceit. You can use it to get angry and frustrated and sad and miserable and depressed, or you can use it to find joy and happiness and connection with people. So the tools themselves aren't bad, right? You know, the Buddha walked around and he taught for 45 years with ultimate, endless compassion and wisdom. So I'm pretty sure if he had the means to use social media and other forms of communication like we do today, he would have reached that many more people, you know, that much quicker. And the wisdom and compassion would have been applied to every single one of those tools, right? Would he have used it how we use it? Definitely not. That's the key, right? So
Oh, you use it well.
I try, man, you know, but
You use it well.
I try. Yes. I don't know TikTok though. So I'm gonna close on that. We'll join palms. May the benefit of this practice be shared with all beings in all directions. May any merit gained from this practice be transferred to those who lost lives today in New Jersey. And may their family and friends find peace. May we all be at peace and free from suffering. So a few quick announcements before you head out. Thanks all for being here. My name is Jeff. I'm the Dharma Bum. We opened up this temple 13 years ago, initially downtown, to introduce Buddhist practice, meditation to local folks. Those of us who lead, we're not monks, we're not nuns, we're not gurus, we're not masters, we're not teachers. We're not looking for students, we're just practitioners. We do our best to take our understanding of Buddhist teachings and put it into terms that hopefully make sense to those who show up. So every night we have different practices going on, different people leading from a different Buddhist tradition. Thursday, 5 o'clock, probably one of the best things we do around here. It's a food redistribution program. We prepare gourmet vegetarian meals with food that would have been wasted or thrown away, and we feed a few hundred people on the streets. So anytime you think your life kind of sucks and you lack gratitude for all you have, feed people, put their head on the sidewalk every night, and it tends to put things into perspective. Holiday time, nothing changes around here. The holidays are a wonderful, joyous time for many, and also for others, it can be the worst time of the year. So we don't close, we don't shut down, we're open just as usual, every morning, every day, every night. So nothing is canceled. This will be our 14th annual New Year's Eve celebration coming up. So we gather at 7 o'clock, we do a potluck, 9 o'clock, I do history at the Dharma Bum Temple. And about 11:30, 11:40, we gather in here, and we do a silent meditation going into midnight. So the whole night's not silent, just the last 20 minutes or so. If you've never done a silent and sober New Year's, here's your chance to get them both done out of the way. And I promise if you bring the new year in silently and sober, you will still live. It won't ruin your whole year. So some people come at 7, hang out for an hour or two and go home, and they're in bed by 10 o'clock. Some people come just at 11:30, 11:40 for the meditation, and some people here all night. But, if you're looking for a quiet, peaceful thing to do with a bunch of quiet, relatively peaceful people, at least that night, you're welcome to show up here. So other than that, if I never see you again, think good thoughts, speak good words, do good deeds. That's really the heart of the practice. So good luck with that. And, please all, don't be so hard on yourselves. Give yourself a break once in a while. You're not nearly as bad as you think you are. So good luck.
Okay.
So hi, real quick.